Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Jeff. Gray out today in Maine, but no rain, no snow, so it's just cloudy. So that's okay. Wasn't very cold, and I hope it's sunnier where you are, and getting anxious here for some better, warmer weather here. Because I got things I need to do with my storage facility, and I wanted to start donating some stuff to Goodwill and the Salvation Army. And the last time I was at Goodwill, I noticed in there when I walked in, I was like, it's getting more and more like the inside of like a Kmart or or some box store like that. Because I have, even though they sell items that are donated and used, okay, the prices don't seem to be of ones that would match something that's used or donated. And it's, I gotta say, if you were really poor, I would think you'd have a hard time being able to afford buying stuff in there these days. I'm not sure why that is. But Goodwill now seems to be more into fucking making profits, okay? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but considering how it used to be to where it is today, it just seems like they're more interested in profits now than they used to be. Now, I know that a lot of things they've been selling, they're doing research on eBay to price certain things, electronic things, vintage things. And those items are usually priced really high. I mean, you're talking about like flea market prices, even higher than that. So, I mean, the other day I went in there and I saw this old play set. It looked like it went to some vintage Barbie thing or something like that. Missing things, obviously. And Jesus, I mean, they wanted like almost $60 for the thing. And I was like, well, look, if somebody's trying to buy toys for their kids, if they're going to pay $60 for something that's, used and missing things, they'll just spend that money on something that isn't used and missing things in fucking Walmart or something. So, it's like, what's the point here of putting all the, in the corner of their store, all these things, specialty items, and having them priced so high? Okay? Because that stuff will sit there until somebody goes in there and buys it who doesn't really need, to... what can I say, really needs it, they're buying it probably to try to resell it, and get a profit. But that, I think that's what, I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, because I saw some papers on where the cash register is, and I saw some forms just laying on the side, and it had eBay on the top page of it, not on the top, but like on the top corner of the paper. Like they had printed out something from eBay and they had it sitting there, and I'm thinking, are these people actually going to eBay to look up prices on things just to see how high they can price it? They're not, it's no longer about just helping out the people. It's about charging to make profit, and that's why the store looks more and more modernized than it used to, and why everything looks like you're stepping into just another fucking Walmart or something like that, and I think a lot of people because I think they have like a site for people that shop at Goodwill, that a lot of people have been saying the same about you know, how Goodwill does not seem to be such a place meant for just, you know, people who need help, you know, anymore. So I don't know, but I don't know. I got people saying don't donate to Goodwill, you know. Well, when I'm donating something, I really don't give a shit where it goes as long as it's gone, because hey, that's the point of what I'm trying to do, is to get rid of things I don't need. So I don't care if it goes to Goodwill or the Salvation Army or to a church or something like that. If it's available, it will go there. Okay, that's where it'll go. So that's how I feel about that. All right, so I got this video here from Mike Polpart from Midas Touch. Will you sit? Quit clawing me. All right, so yeah, I got this video, and he's talking about how the judges have overturned a decision that was made to not bring back certain people who were illegally picked up and deported to El Salvador, and now the Trump administration is appealing it, taking it to the Supreme Court of the U.S. Okay, so anyway, let's go to that video here, and then we'll discuss that on the other side.
Must be Monday, because Donald Trump has suffered 2 losses at the appellate court. This time, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, 3-judge panel, has ruled to affirm the ruling of Judge Zinnes in Maryland that requires that Mr. Abrego Garcia, who was illegally deported by the Trump administration in a administrative error, despite the fact he had an order to prevent his removal to El Salvador because he'll get killed there, in place since 2019. It was a green card holder. Her order that requires him to be returned on Monday before midnight, and her refusal to grant a stay has been affirmed by a 3-judge panel of the Fourth Circuit that sits over Maryland, with two judges, which is interesting. Judge Thacker, appointed by Obama, and Judge King, appointed a long time ago by President Clinton, having a little bit of a battle, but reaching the same point, that it shocks the conscience. It is unconscionable, as Judge Thacker put it, for the Trump administration to take the position that they can, without due process, without notice, in the middle of the night, kidnap somebody, admit and concede to an administrative error in violation of an order, and then throw up their hands and say they can't get him back, despite the fact there's no evidence that proves they can't get him back. And even the president of El Salvador, where the prison is located, has said this is just a delegation of the prison system. They're just offloading some of the U.S. prison system to El Salvador, and they're paying for it. That sounds like you got control over the ability to bring back Mr. Abrego Garcia. So the court has refused to block the mandatory injunction requiring by Judge Zinnes the return of Abrego Garcia by Monday at midnight. Come back here for updated reporting on that one. And now Donald Trump's going to have to try to take an emergency application to the United States Supreme Court and see what happens next. I'll cover it right here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I did a recent hot take about the hot water that a lawyer for the Department of Justice, Erez Roveni, got because he told the truth to the federal judge, Judge Zinnes, when she asked him, were you aware, was ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement for the Trump administration, aware that Mr. Abrego Garcia, a father married to a U.S. citizen in Maryland, a green card holder, was also the subject of a removal order to prevent his removal, an asylum order, if you will, from an immigration judge that prevented him and prevented the Attorney General or the Secretary of State from deporting him to El Salvador. When he went to El Salvador, were they aware? Yes, Your Honor. Okay, that got Erez Roveni in trouble, because he just got canned by the Department of Justice for being insubordinate and not being a zealous advocate for his client. But you can't force a lawyer to lie. It's a violation of the Code of Ethics. You have duty to the tribunal. You have a duty of candor to the tribunal. You have to be honest. Yes, you have to be a zealous advocate, but the limits of zealous advocacy end where you have to lie. And they mentioned it, at least Judge Thacker mentioned it in her footnote. Let me start there, and then we'll work backwards into what the order is. In footnote 4, I knew this was going to show up in somebody's order. This is what the Judge Thacker wrote in her opinion. Three-judge panel, all three voted in favor of not granting a stay to block Judge Zinnis's order requiring the return today of Abrego Garcia. But here's what Judge Thacker took time to write. Of note, in response to the candid response by the government attorney, that's Ruveni, to the district court's inquiry, that's Judge Zinnis, that attorney has been put on administrative leave ostensibly for lack of zealous advocacy. That term comes from the Code of Professional Responsibility that all lawyers, as officers of the court, swear an oath to. Every lawyer, even if you're not a litigator, a trial lawyer like me, if you're a transactional lawyer, when you come out of law school and you want to be a member of the bar so you can practice law and charge your clients as a lawyer, you got to swear an oath that you're going to uphold, and you are bound to uphold the Code of Professional Responsibility in your jurisdiction. Every one of that has the exact same, from the model code, has the exact same provision on candor to the tribunal, meaning, fancy way of saying, you can't lie to the federal judge, even if you want to. Even if by not lying it hurts your client, you can't lie or you get your license pulled. So that's when we say zealous advocacy. We have an obligation to be zealous advocates, to use our powers and do everything we can within the facts and the law and ethics and truth-telling, right, in our adversarial process. That's how it works in our system of justice, but not to the point of lying. Here's what Judge Thacker continued after citing to some New York Times cases. She says, but the duty of zealous representation is tempered by the duty of candor to the court, among other ethical obligations, and the duty to uphold the rule of law, particularly on the part of a government attorney. United States Department of Justice homepage. In other words, there's a guideline. The DOJ manual requires, quote, our employees adhere to the highest standards of ethical behavior, mindful that as public servants, we must work to earn the trust of and inspire confidence in the public we serve. Trump never got around to taking that down from the Department of Justice website. I'm sure he will now. Now, here's where the judge said it was unconscionable. Let me read to you from certain pages of her decision. Again, there's no major decision or one opinion written by the majority. These are separate opinions written by the judges, but they all came to the same conclusion. They're not going to block Judge Zinnis's order. But here's what Thacker wrote. The panel unanimously agrees that the district court's order requiring the government to facilitate and effectuate the return of plaintiff Armando Abrego Garcia to the United States no longer than 11:59 p.m. on Monday, this Monday, should not be stayed. The government's motion to stay is denied. The United States government has no legal authority, Judge Thacker writes, to snatch a person who is lawfully present in the United States off the street and remove him from the country without due process. The government's contention otherwise, and its argument that the federal courts are powerless to intervene when they don't have jurisdiction, are unconscionable. Shocks the consciousness. That's what she's trying to say. And as I outlined it, he had he was granted a withholding of removal certificate from a federal judge, immigration judge, back in 2019. ICE snatched him up, even though he had a green card. They said that his status had changed, which it had not. They then admitted Mr. Ruveni, who's now needs to be hired by somebody. Note to all the big law firms that bent the knee to Donald Trump, you should hire Mr. Ruveni as penitence for what you've done. But because he's now lost his job. Which also, by the side note, I would make a bar referral about Todd Blanche, the Department of Justice #2 official that ordered him to lie, because that is a violation of his code of conduct, his code of professional responsibility. We'll leave that for another hot take. Here's what the judge said. On March 15, 2025, bottom of page 3, in what the government has conceded as an administrative error, nothing like sending somebody on an administrative error to the dark, deep, dank recesses of one of the world's most notorious killer jails in El Salvador. The government flew Abrego Garcia from the United States to Tecoluca, El Salvador. This person the plaintiff should not have been removed. That is not in dispute. That's Mr. Ruveni for the Department of Justice. That's why he got canned. He was placed on page 4 at the Terrorism Confinement Center, which they call CCOT, in El Salvador, a notorious supermax prison known for widespread human rights violations. The government took this action pursuant to its agreement with El Salvador, wherein the United States paid El Salvador $6 million to hold detainees for 1 year pending the United States decision on their long-term disposition. Doesn't that sound like the U.S. has power over how to get them back? That they've delegated to El Salvador, basically outsourced part of their prison system? So this argument that the government is making is we can't get him back and you can't order us to get him back because there's no jurisdiction because he's not in the country. You know, this old catch-22. The judge says, no, I have inherent authority. Judge Zinna says, I have inherent authority and equitable authority to make this order and to review an unconstitutional, illegal act by the federal government. And it doesn't have to be done in what's called habeas corpus petition, which means you got to bring the body, to the court. He's not trying to get out of detention, by the way, at the moment. He's just trying to get back and be repatriated from El Salvador because of an illegal removal order. This is not about, I want to make this clear. He's not going to see his family on Monday. I mean, unless he sees it, wearing a jumpsuit at a federal detention center in America. He's not getting out yet. But we're talking about due process. We're talking about Fifth Amendment. We're talking about right to confront your accusers. We're talking about evidence. We're talking about a judge determining whether he is a member of a gang or he's a victim himself, along with his family, of a kidnapping plot. That's the issue. But that has to be adjudicated. You can't just say, yeah, what's your name? Yeah, I don't like that. Where are you from? El Salvador, you're going back. Get on a plane. Yeah. That is the country we don't want to live in, I assure you. Here's what Judge Thacker says about the illegal order. Thus, the question on page 6, she says, is whether the government is likely to succeed on the merits of its claims that the Attorney General removed Abrego Garcia pursuant to a lawful order of removal. They said it's been conceded by the Department of Justice. That's why Ruveni's about to get fired. That they was an illegal removal. So what are we talking about? Or as the other judge in his order, in his decision wrote, Judge King, it was an oopsie. It was a screw up. He characterized, that's the battle between the Obama appointee and the Clinton appointee. The Obama appointee wants to appropriately go through all of the separation of powers, illegal acts, issues. And King, who's 85 years old, he just wants to say it was an oopsie. It's a mulligan. They should get him back. But I don't want to set up a constitutional crisis. We're already set up for a constitutional crisis. Wake up, of Trump's making. How many hot takes do I have to start with? Here's another constitutional crisis established by Donald Trump. My joke is it's another constitutional crisis. It must be Monday with Donald Trump. So the ending of this order, after they go through all of the admissions, is I don't believe you about not being able to get him back. So you have a 3-judge panel who effectively says, it's fallen on deaf ears, your position that you don't have the power through foreign relations and through the agreements you signed with El Salvador to get that back. Even MAGA can't believe that. Even MAGA can't believe that Donald Trump was stupid enough to send somebody off to a prison outside the country he has no control over the ability to get somebody back from. I mean, is this the United States that you want to live in? I don't think so. And with all due respect to Judge King, although he got to the right place in his joining in the majority decision, the 3-0 decision, to argue that, to rule that Judge Zinna was right, he got there for the dumbest of reasons. It was just an error. It was just a screw up. He says on page 17, there's no question the government screwed it up here. Are we beyond screwed it up here? Aren't we beyond glitches? Aren't we beyond, it's just a course correction? Call it for what it is. Speak truth to each other on the panel. This is a violation of the Fifth Amendment of due process rights of epic proportion. This is a violation of separation of powers. This is a violation of other federal judges' orders by the executive branch. Call it for what it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't sweet talk it. We won't do that here. We're on Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popak. I'll give you an update. You know what's happening next. Fast-moving story. Come back on Midas Touch and Legal AF for updates. You know what's going to happen next. They're off and running to the United States Supreme Court. The question is whether they're going to get a stay, an administrative stay or otherwise, while the court gets its mind and hearts around this particular issue. And what's going to happen to Abrego Garcia at 11:59 tonight? I have a guess. Come back on that cliffhanger. I'll report on it. I'm Michael Popak.
Here's the thing. I don't know if you picked up on it when you was watching the video, but I did the very first time I heard it. They already admitted that it was a mistake to send Mr. Garcia down to El Salvador. They already admit that it was a mistake. Okay? That being said, and this being admitted by the administration, okay, why are they now trying to fix that mistake? Why are they trying so goddamn hard to just leave it be? Okay? And the only thing I can come up with, and this may be completely off the wall, but I think back to the war on terrorism, what we waged in this country, and how, you know, in Guantanamo Bay, we were picking up people that we were suspected as terrorists and sending them there. Okay, and I do remember that some of the people who ended up there were not terrorists, okay? And I'm not really sure what happened to some of them. I think maybe some were released, but I'm not sure if they all were. But they were picking up people that were suspected of being terrorists, and they were interrogated. Remember waterboarding? That was the first time the Americans were familiarized with that form of pressure to apply on someone to confess, okay? And then, of course, the picture come out about how those prisoners were being treated down there. Remember the photograph of the guys in a pyramid and the army soldier there that was standing there, you know, posing with it with these guys, and you know, it was very demeaning, and it was showing how callous things were down there, and how things were out of control. Made a lot of fucking news here in the country when that came out. And so I'm thinking, you know, after that, all these things happened, and word got back to the United States about what the hell was going on down there. There was a lot of fucking uproar in this country over that, and the Bush administration suffered under that fucking mess. And I think that the Trump administration doesn't want to have a repeat of that. And the only way they can stop that from happening is to keep those people who are there. You know what I'm saying? To keep them there. They don't want them coming back here with stories of what goes on in that fucking place in El Salvador, what goes on in those labor camps down there. They don't want people in this country to hear these stories, because that's only going to pour gas on the fire. And Trump is already in hot water with this country already, and with the rest of the world. And if it gets out that, oh, guess what Americans are doing? They're sending people to these faraway places to be abused and even killed. Okay? And they have no proof that these folks even belong there. They've had a tattoo, they spoke with an accent, they have dark skin. Okay? You know, ICE is just rounding these fuckers up without much criteria for who should be rounded up and who isn't. They don't go over paperwork. They just go around wearing their Captain America t-shirts, okay, posing as regular folks, and they're working undercover, for Christ's sake. You know, it's worse than, you know, than the Secret Service, or, you know, somebody in the FBI is an agent doing their job. Okay, these people are just going around looking for oddities that don't fit in their mind what an American should look like. Okay. What do they call it? Racial profiling? You know, remember how we used to get mad at the police for that? Pulling people over because, oh, they're black or something. They shouldn't be driving a nice, pretty car. You know, they must have done something wrong. Well, we had our fights about that with the police, and now ICE is out there doing exactly the same fucking thing. Okay? They had no proof at all that Garcia was a criminal or was not supposed to be in this country. In fact, they found out otherwise. The man came here from El Salvador and requested asylum in the country, and he was protected. He came here in 2019. He's been here ever since, or he was here ever since, okay? And for some reason, they still picked him up. They didn't care. Did they even bother to check this guy's background? Obviously not. Otherwise, it would have come up. You know, that he was here under the protection of the United States government. And still, the guy was deported. So ICE is not doing their job. They're just picking up people to meet a quota. I already told you what that number is. 20 million. Trump said it, 20 million, okay? Even though there was no proof that there's 20 million illegals in this country. In fact, the best estimate said there was 11 million, if that, okay? But he said 20 million, and that's what ICE repeated. And that 20 million number is where they're going to. And it doesn't matter how many innocent people they pick up as long as they reach 20 fucking million, okay? That's what this is about. And they're not going to admit that they fucked up. Okay, because if they admit to this fuck up, they're going to have to admit to how many other fuck ups of all those people that they sent there who don't belong there now. You know that not everybody there is a criminal. You know that a lot of those people there were here legally or were in the process of getting legal in this country, but they had green cards or whatever. They were here, with the right, in legal fashion. Okay, they didn't just run across the border and end up here. No. But, Trump would have you believe that anyone who's Latino is here illegally. Okay, that's racial profiling. That's what he said is illegal in itself. Okay. And so this gets right to the crux of the matter, that what's happened here is it's another egg that Trump is trying to dodge being on his face, but the fact is, they already unzipped their fly and said, yeah, we made a mistake. That very admission right there in the administration is proof enough to say that man needs to come back home. Okay? The very fact that they admitted it was a mistake is proof that he should be back here, because they fucked up, and they know they did. They checked him out, and they found out, oops. Okay? But oops is all they're willing to give you. They're just going to say, oh, well, leave them there. We don't care. Why? Because we don't like people like that. We don't like the Latinos in this country. That's what it's all about. It's racism. Okay? Do you think the slave owner that whipped a black man for stealing and found out it was a white guy that stole is going to say, I'm sorry I whipped you? No. He'll whip him harder for not saying something. Okay, that's what these people are. That's what Trump is. That's what the Trump administration is. That's what everybody who works in that administration is, okay? All of them. They're all a bunch of bigots. Every damn one of them. Okay? And that's why they're out there covering each other's ass, okay? Trying to dodge legal bullets, trying to ignore the Constitution and get away with it. Okay, and this will not stop unless we have people in authority in government who are willing to put the brakes on it. Okay, this is going to go on. More people are going to get rounded up and sent to El Salvador. Okay, and it won't matter if you got a passport. It won't matter if you got a driver's license already. It fucking won't even matter if you got a birth certificate. Okay, none of that's going to be a convincing thing when they see you and they're convinced because of your skin color or a tattoo that you might have that you're a criminal. They'll just say, well, that was all forged. They'll just deem it all forged. So what are we going to be left with? Are we going to, all of us who are proven to be American, going to have to be branded on our forehead, the mark of the beast? Is that what we're coming to? Where, if you've been declared American, okay, okay, now you're an American because you got an A on your fucking head. Is that where we're headed? Because, the way I see it now, documents, paperwork, it don't matter no more. Not with ICE, it doesn't seem, because, hey, the guy had the paperwork to prove he was right to be here. And that didn't matter to them. Send him out of here. Get him the fuck out of here. Okay? So that's where we're headed, I think, for a lot of us, is that, the documentation that you got put away in your folders or something in your house, that's not going to mean anything. That's not going to mean anything. Okay? They don't want to look at it. They don't care. If you got a tattoo on your arm, and there's a lot of people these days that tattoos, even women, for Christ's sake. You know, you got a tattoo on your arm, guess what? You're out. If it looks like a gang tattoo, you're out. You're 7 years old, I don't care. You're out. This is how it worked in Germany when they were getting rid of the Jewish people. Okay, a lot of the people they exported to wherever they sent them, okay, take your pick. Some of them weren't Jewish at all, you know, and they were deported out of the country. Maybe because they looked Jewish, maybe they had a beef with the person, I don't know. But there were a lot of other people who were rounded up and sent to these camps and shit like that. They weren't just Jews. I mean, hell, they were rounding up little kids, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, if they were willing to go that far, you know. So, I mean, that's kind of the attitude that's gone now. I mean, people with a little bit of authority, I'm talking about ICE, you give these people a little bit of authority and they will take that to a mile. They will pull the fucking cord as far as it'll go. All right? That's what it is. It's people given authority that don't know how to deal with it in a responsible and, you know, respectable fashion, for that matter. Okay, there's a lot of cops out there with the same problem. Okay, you give them a badge and they think they own the world. We've already seen that. Okay, so I feel like, you know, with these people out there trying to make excuses for the things they've done here, and the courts are trying to say, no, bring them back, bring them fucking back. And the Trump administration is like saying, no, fuck you, we're going to take this to the Supreme Court. Okay? It's like, well, you guys aren't really sorry at all. Why did you even admit you made a mistake if you weren't going to try to correct it? You know, you wouldn't have to wait for a court to tell you to bring these people back. You would have already done it. Okay? A good leader would have said, yeah, we'll bring them back and we'll try to smooth this over the best we can by, you know, giving this guy a place or making him a citizen, or, you know what I'm saying? Anything, you know, to try to make amends here for the mistake. Not this guy, not this administration. Will you stop it? Jesus Christ. So yeah, I mean that's what we're looking at here is an administration that cannot fucking admit when they're wrong. They instead will fight to the bitter end. Even when they're totally in the wrong, all the way to the end, they're going to fight and fight and fight. Okay? That's what we got here. I can think of people who would rather die lying than actually admit to telling the truth. Okay? That's Trump. That proves that he's a compulsive liar, or whatever, chronic liar, whatever you want to label him as being a form of a liar. He's a guy incapable of telling the truth. Okay? He's incapable of it. Which means he's the worst fucking guy you would want to be running a nation. Because he will destroy it. And guess what, people? Our country is getting destroyed as we speak. You know, like Mike said in the video, every Monday it's another constitutional crisis. This is what he does. This is his fucking job. Is just, you know, shit on the Constitution every chance you get. All right? That's what he's doing. And it's sick. So let's go to a commercial break and we'll come back with another video.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
response hotline. We're calling to inform you that your emergency request for in-person counseling for PTSD has been denied. To stop fraud, waste, and abuse, these services will be replaced by VetCare AI, powered by Grok, an X company. President Trump and Doge Chairman Musk, thank you for your service and being part of our efforts to eliminate waste. Have a nice day. Press 1 to repeat this message. Press 2 to return to main menu. Press 3 to leave a message, and an AI operator will call you back if your problem is deemed unwasteful. Goodbye.
Don't look up. Elon Musk's rockets keep blowing up. Pieces falling out of the sky. Airports across Florida shut down. Planes are crashing. Near misses. Dangerous. What are Donald Trump and Elon Musk doing? Slashing the Federal Aviation Administration, the one government agency that protects you in the sky. It's crazy. Elon Musk doesn't care. He doesn't fly like the rest of us. For him, it's private planes, private airports. But there's another reason Elon Musk wants to gut the FAA. It's the agency that regulates his rockets that keep blowing up. The FAA has fined Musk's rocket company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, by the way, you're paying for those exploding rockets. Musk gets billions from taxpayers. He wants to build spaceships to take billionaires to Mars. Yeah, nuts. Elon Musk is out of control.
Did you know that baking soda and ice-cold water is the crucial secret to reach firmness? Just go to the kitchen and do this before going to bed.
I never stopped to think about that.
Exactly. It's simple if you think about it. There's no miracle. The only thing that makes a man firm is increasing blood flow to that area.
That's what the famous blue pills do, right?
Yes, but they do it by dilating the veins. That's why they don't solve the problem permanently. There's only one way to permanently fix this problem without relying on pills, prescriptions, pumps, or exercises, and that's by clearing out the veins that are clogged with plaques. That's why the Indian doctor is getting so popular in the media. He discovered an Indian bull trick that can clear out more than 93% of the plaques. This brings 20 times more blood flow to the area for men. That's why this trick is so effective. A top research team at Johns Hopkins University investigated and confirmed that this trick works for any man, regardless of age. There are already over 62,000 men in America alone who have permanently reversed the problem.
When I saw that I could get firm again without taking any pills, I couldn't believe it. It had been years since I was able to perform.
For over 6 years, I couldn't stay firm. My marriage was terrible, and my wife left me, and we got divorced. That's when I found the Indian bull trick recipe, and I still can't believe I'm firmer than when I was 18. Now I'm dating a woman 20 years younger than me, and she's very satisfied with my performance.
That's incredible.
I told you it's something innovative, and it's been proven to work for any man. I'll leave the link to the free class here for anyone who wants to see it. So, click the button below and watch the free video with the full recipe.
But why isn't anyone talking about this in the media?
This trick was recently discovered, and since it was found, blue pill sales have dropped by over 60% in India. The industry is very worried that this natural trick will become popular in America. That's why they're doing everything they can to keep it from being publicized. This free class has already been taken down twice, and it's close to being taken down for the 3rd time. And this time, it looks like it will be permanent. So this could be the last chance for those who need to see this information. Click the button below and watch the free class with the complete step-by-step guide.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Stop it. God damn. All right, welcome back, everybody. So I got this other video. It's short. It's about 6 minutes long, I guess. But it kind of, it's talking about, you know, at one of the protests that we had over the weekend, this one dude here shows up, MAGA nut here, who tried to start something. Because his fur was ruffled, that so many people are so mad at Trump right now and shitting on him, shitting on Musk, shitting on Tesla. He can't stand it. It's too much. He can't take it. So, you know, he made a plan that he was going to go into a protest and start a fight. Okay? And this video here will show how that ended up.
And is finding out. And there were numerous protests around the country yesterday, and it was awesome to see all the videos and everything. I was trying to get to one in Los Angeles, but I was here visiting for my daughter's track meet and wasn't able to get to it. But I saw a lot of videos of everything. I know Tennessee Brando was here in LA speaking at one. That's why I was trying my hardest to get there, but I wasn't able to. But there were just a lot of protesting going on, and I remember reading comments from, you know, a lot of these MAGAs who were saying they were going to show up at these protests and they were going to, you know, give it to the libs and all this stuff, right? And I always find it funny that people decide to have a peaceful protest to protest things in this country that they don't agree with, and these counter protesters are like, you know, out there advertising that they're going to show up and they're going to have things to say and all that. And so this video of this guy who, I want you to watch this video because this guy probably thought he was going to have his moment, right? He was going to have that moment where his wife is recording and they're going to get some good footage of him owning the libs or whatever, right? And yeah, it didn't turn out that way for him. It actually turned out pretty bad for this guy. Check out the video.
What's up? What's up? Everybody that way! 911! 911! You jumped out of your car because you're walking the track. No, he's gonna take off. He's gonna try to go.
Okay, so this is the funny part to me is the people are telling them, hey, you got out of your car, guy. You got out of your car. You came over here. You messed with this guy first. And he and his wife are like, oh, that's because you guys are blocking traffic and blah, 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 right? So think about it for a second. I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, okay, they're saying that people were blocking traffic. But this guy happened to have on a MAGA hat, a MAGA shirt. His wife is recording, and he has an assault rifle in his car. They left their house thinking they were gonna go somewhere and own the libs. They didn't just happen to be driving by and there were people blocking traffic. No, this guy thought he was going to have his Kyle Rittenhouse moment, and he got bitch slapped, and then he's telling his wife, dial 911, dial 911, and he's wiping his nose because obviously someone punched him in the nose, and then he ran to his car to get his weapon, because that's what these people do. They want to talk all tough online. They want to, I'm going to do this and that. I mean, that guy looks like that guy would have lost all his breath in any type of confrontation. I mean, let's just be real here. This dude and his wife thought that they were going to have their Kyle Rittenhouse moment, thought, hey, let's go look for a reason to try and use this weapon that we have or whatever, right? And ends up getting punched in the nose, and now he's yelling, call 911, call 911, you hit me, and everything. But it's just, don't show up at a protest. It was a peaceful protest until you showed up and tried to bring violence to it, and then when violence came to his door, this is what he got. This is what we get, and we're the snowflakes, right? The liberals are the snowflakes, but you just got punched in the nose by a snowflake liberal. I love seeing these videos of and these comments by MAGAs who are like, all these liberals, they're not even muscular, and they don't do this and that. You guys are not all the you guys live in this fantasy land. I've seen these MAGAs posting pictures of like, when there's a civil war, we're coming. And it's always like these AI photos of this jacked up people, with all these weapons and everything. And the person posting it does not represent what they're posting at all. Like, these people, we're the snowflakes, but this guy is crying to his wife to dial 911 because he got in someone's face and that person punched him in the nose. Now listen, I'm not advocating for any violence at any of these protests, but I am 100% an advocate for people standing up for themselves, and absolutely an advocate for you standing up for yourself against these MAGAs. Let them know, like, you got the wrong one on that day, man. You got the wrong one. You were looking for a snowflake, and you found one, but the snowflake was you. It was you and your wife, who's now embarrassed of you because you probably talked so tough at home, and now she got to watch you beg her to call 911 because you had a little blood on your nose. Yeah, snowflake. Period.
Okay, it's not surprising. I expected there's probably more of that sort of thing that went on at the protests. I told you, these people, they're like kids, and I'll show you some proof of that. I went to one of their stupid websites. Was it yesterday? Yeah, must have been yesterday. I went to one of their stupid websites just to see, see what they're talking about, in the comments and stuff. When I got there, you wouldn't believe what I found. I found these pictures that are from their website that they had on there, and I'm not even sure why they were there, but it kind of, in a way, it kind of summarizes how they really are underneath all that bravado. So here's the fucking pictures here. Yeah. It's fucking crazy. I mean, who are these people anyway? I'm not trying to make fun of adults who wear diapers or something if they need to wear them, okay? Because you see them in the grocery store. But to put pictures of them up on their webpage, it's like, what the hell is this, And certainly the guy at that that was mentioned in that video certainly seemed like, oh, crybaby. He starts a fight, gets punched, and he's like, oh, call 911. Oh. Okay. These people, they feel brave because they got a gun, but they ain't got the courage to actually fucking use it when put in the position of being hit. Maybe because in their back of their mind they know they're wrong. Okay, maybe, I don't know. But sure, there's gonna be resistance. Okay, remember, not everybody in MAGA is splintering away from the MAGA corporation. Okay, some of these people at the core are still MAGA. They still won't admit defeat. They still won't admit they were wrong. okay? And even though in their little communities they have these things going on, okay, and they rub each other's ego to feel brave, you put them out in the open in front of thousands of fucking people who hate the guy that they adore, they fall to pieces. They can't imagine. It boggles their mind that so many people hate them. Why do they hate them? Well, that's because you've been living in a fucking bubble. Okay? You've been living in a bubble created by Fox News. That's the reason why it's such a bizarre and, oh, I must have stepped into a parallel universe. Okay? No, that's reality. You've been living in a parallel universe. Okay? And the only thing that you know is what Fox tells you that you should know. But barring that, okay, you don't know anything. You really don't. You have no idea what Trump's been doing because they won't talk about it. And even though Fox these days is having some pretty difficult times trying to spin the shit that Trump's been doing, they're still trying to smooth it over with the people watching, okay? They're still trying to sugarcoat it. Which means, you know, hey, they're getting something from Trump. Rupert Murdoch, or whoever's running that outfit now, okay, they're in cahoots somewhere. All right, it may not be that obvious, and they may not say much about it, but they gotta be, right? Come on. I mean, they, of all people, realize negative shit sells. And so if they start talking negative shit about Trump, okay, they know that, you know, it could ruin them because all the people that they have brought into the fold, as it were, the audience, they're only there because they want to believe what Trump is doing is good. But if they say it's not, guess what? They're going to go find somebody else to listen to, okay? So regardless of what Trump does, Fox is never going to be able to change its tact and say, oh, he did something wrong. Nope. No, they're going to continue to make Trump look like the good guy in all of this, okay? And yeah, shh. So that's, you know, that's kind of like why this guy shows up at this fucking rally. He can't stand it. He can't stand the fact that there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people, not just in the United States, but in around the world, people protesting Trump, okay? When you got that much hate against our president, okay, what do you think that means? Forget the idea that he won the election. That boat sailed months ago, okay? It's all a different world now. It's a different world. And why did it change so fast? Because Trump changed it so fast. That's why. You can blame him for that. He ruined his own popularity, if you want to believe he ever had any. He's ruined it. With his actions, he brought himself down, and it's still dropping. Probably as fast as the stock market, but it's going down. And so what was back then isn't today. He's not popular today. He's even more hated than he was back last year. And so, hey, if he were to run for president now, he'd lose. He'd lose by a fucking landslide. He'd lose. Okay. You saw what happened in Wisconsin. Elon Musk, $30 million he spent, you know, to make sure that one of their own would win, and he lost by 10 points already. And that was a state Trump won just a few months ago. Now, they're all against him. So there you go. That's what's happened here. And so people in MAGA that are still of the mindset that, oh, Trump's still good, he's gonna make our country great again. Okay, those are the ones showing up at these protests with their guns, itching for a fight. Okay? And when we hear about, and we will, when we hear about a gun battle that took place at a protest and the person they arrested, it will not be a surprise to me that it will be someone who is a MAGA or supporter of Donald Trump, okay? Don't be surprised. There's only one reason why something like that would happen at a rally against Trump, okay? And it's because someone who loves Trump was going to be there to get his word in edgewise with blood, all right? January 6th. They supported Trump. They killed, a couple of people, 2-3 people there. You know, cops didn't even matter. Oh, we're all for the cops, and no, they beat them with a fucking flagpole and a hockey stick, and you know what I'm saying? No, they're only for the cops when the cops are with them. But if they're not, the cops are just collateral damage. Okay. And you know, this guy here in the video, he was looking, you know, for his pound of flesh, but it ain't gonna matter. That's only going to agitate people the further, okay, and hate Trump even more. To say, look at his sycophants. They can't stand it, okay? They go around there with their guns and they're shooting people. They can't stand it. That their orange Jesus there is actually an orange devil, okay? And these people are sucked up into the whirlwind of a cult, and they can't help it but be what they are. You're not helping anything. People like that. I mean, Christ, you ought to, you know, they ought to, one of the criteria they ought to put in things when people try to buy a gun is, are you a Republican? Are you a MAGA supporter? Because if you are, you will not get this gun. You people will use them for the wrong reasons, not to protect your property or your family, but to go after other people's property and family if you don't like them. That's what MAGA is, okay? So these people, if they are registered Republicans, should not be allowed to own a gun. Doesn't that make sense? Because I think a lot of people who do really shouldn't have them. A lot of people that do shouldn't have them. Even though they have no criminal record, they have that itch to use that fucking gun the minute they have it, to use it to enact fear in other people. They love that when they can make people afraid of you. That's why they put them in their vehicles. Road rage. You know, you come after me and I'm going to get my fucking AR out of there. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's all about road rage. It's about, you know, looking for an excuse to whip that thing out and shoot it, you know, so they can feel superior until they end up behind bars and they're all tears. I think of that guy at the airport after January 6th who was arrested because he was there, one of those people, and he's screaming, I was fighting for you! I was fighting for you! You know, and I'm thinking, this guy's insane. You know, he's sitting there, the cops was handcuffing him, and this guy's standing in the airport screaming his head off while the other people were clapping that they were arresting him. Okay, he's screaming at him, I was fighting for you. You know, Jesus, delusional. Okay, delusional. Fucking people, man. That's what MAGA is, you know. These diaper-wearing delusional freaks. Okay, that's all they are. And like I said, they shouldn't have guns. They shouldn't even have a fucking BB gun, for Christ's sake, because they would find a way to misuse that. Christ. Anyway, that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health-related issues. Smokey. No. And treat each other nice out there. Be a community. Help each other out. So I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.